Good morning and welcome to the DadVestors Podcast. Today I am excited to welcome Mr. Brent Kesler. He is a former chiropractor and current owner, president of the Money Multiplier. Him and I met in San Diego a few months back, and I am just consistently impressed by him as a father and a businessman. So I'm excited to get this one started. Let's get it going. I had to tell you, I was so excited to have this talk with you because I am constantly impressed at her knowledge, like her financial knowledge. And I was telling you before, I have two girls. So I'm always like to my wife, I was like, man, I want to be like Brent when I grew up, because you got a 24-year-old daughter just talking circles around people when it comes to finances.
Yeah, no, she's really, really good at this. She's a rock star. And, I'm not saying that because she's my daughter, but she's been around it for so long too, and she's heard me do this for years. And, and now with her being in the business, and plus just with her being in the business, even the back end of the business, she knows really, really well, because when she started, kind of doing the admin stuff, like the application process and the underwriting guidelines and things like that. So now she's kind of emerged to where she's got, I think she just recorded her 107th podcast episode. Her podcast went out there on iHeartRadio a few weeks ago, maybe about a month ago. So yeah, she's doing really good. And then of course she travels, all around the country, and she speaks, on stages on this event also. So I'm doing way, way, way less traveling and speaking. I'm still doing some, but Hannah is really, picking that up, quite a bit. So, and then plus on top of that, Justin, she does this in her own life. She has like 7 or 8 of her own policies, and this is how she's bought, her cars, her conversion van, her condo, and all of that is through this whole process, the infinite banking system. So she practices it in her own life.
So let's run it back, because most people won't understand. We kind of just jumped into something without laying any foundation. You run the Money Multiplier. How long have you been doing that?
Yeah, right. Well, just to give you the backstory, I first heard about this in 2006. In my former life, I was a chiropractor. Again, I'm still a chiropractor. I don't practice anymore, but I had 5 clinics in the Kansas City area. And I sold my last clinic in 2017, and I haven't really been actively practicing since 08 or 09. But anyway, this whole concept of the infinite banking concept, I first heard it in 2006. I was actually at a chiropractic conference, and about 10 or 12 of my colleagues were also at this conference with me. And so that was the first time I was exposed to the concept, and I heard somebody talking about it. And I was like, man, that seems really, really good, but it just seems too good to be true, right? And I'm sure you've heard things like that before. You look at stuff and it seems too good to be true. Well, I thought it was 100%. Too good to be true. So I did nothing. I got the information, I listened to the talk, and I went home and I did nothing at all. And I just went back to my chiropractic life, right? So kind of actually forgot about the talk. And then I go back to another conference in 2008, and about 10 or 12 of my colleagues that were previously at the other conference with me were at this one. And the only difference between them and me is they actually started the process when they first heard about it in 06. So anyway, I've got 10 or 12 of my colleagues. They're basically going on and on about how they're able to pay off debt, recapture, recycle money, all without working any harder, changing their cash flow, taking any additional risk, or losing control, just by adding this one step in their financial life. And they're going on and on. So I thought to myself, there has to be something to this method, right? There's no way 10 or 12 of my colleagues are lying. Maybe 1 or 2.
Yeah, it's a lot.
But not 10 or 12. So I came home and I told my wife, it was February of 2008. I said, honey, we have to start implementing this concept in our life. And it was at that time, February of '08, I was $984,711 in debt. That's what I owed the third party creditors. And so again, so how come I know the exact amount? Because that was part of the exercise that we had to do. We had to know exactly where we were at. So that debt consisted of right? It consisted of okay, things like the house that I lived in, my student loans from chiropractic college, okay, the loans I took out for chiropractic clinics. At that time, I owned 2 clinics in 2008. And then also I had a house on the Lake of the Ozarks between St. Louis and Kansas City. And obviously you have to have boats and wave runners and jet skis. And then I'm an airplane pilot, so I have to have an airplane. So it didn't take a lot to become $1 million in debt. Well, I was able to place this concept into place and pay that debt off in 39 months. So I got really passionate about it. So just to fast forward a little bit, I started teaching this concept in March of 2012. That's when I started teaching the concept, and here we are, where we at? We're in May or almost June of 2024. So a little over 12 years, I've been teaching this concept around the country. Prior to the pandemic, I was probably speaking on 55 to 70 live stages a year. Pandemic hits, all the live stuff goes away. Everything changes to Zoom and virtual. And then, honestly, I thought our business was going to crap out because the live events were gone, but it just exploded when it went to Zoom and virtual, So, which was, right? So who knew? So now we've been doing that. And of course, the last couple years now, the live events have started to come back. So we're on the road quite a bit doing live events as well. And I guess I heard that so Hannah's going to be speaking at a couple of your things that you have coming up here sometime this year. She had mentioned to me.
Yeah, we're doing an event together in June or in July and August.
Great.
And I'll tell you, when we met in San Diego, that wasn't the first time I had heard of or been pitched infinite banking. But to show you how short of a timeline this was, for February, I took my family up to the mountains. We went to Lake Arrowhead. It's like my wife's favorite place to go. And my sister-in-law, she asked me about whole life insurance. Now, I grew up with a buddy who's a financial advisor, and he said, hey, whole life insurance, absolute scam. Stay away from that. And that was my only knowledge because I had never really dug into it. And then you and I met probably 4 weeks after that, or 5 weeks after that. And that's when I really started to dig, and not to plug Money Multiplier, but I got my physical this morning to get this process started with you guys and to get everything set. But like I said, I have just been constantly impressed, especially when it comes to like Hannah's knowledge and the fact that she's 24 and that you were able to teach her all that stuff. And like you said, that when you really start to dig into the history is what really kind of amazed me when you look at like the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts, of how this was a differentiating factor.
Yeah, absolutely right. And so kind of like what you said, Justin, right? So what your friend or colleague had said, no, or I'm sorry, your financial advisor said, no life insurance, whole life insurance is the worst. Well, again, I hear that all the time, and I just say, look, go do your own due diligence, go do your own research on how the concept works. And see, the thing is just what most people don't know, CPAs, accountants, attorneys, financial planners, financial advisors, is they don't understand the way to structure the policy. The one thing you got to keep in mind is this is not an ordinary whole life policy. This is not the policy that I say you can go and buy from your brother-in-law that sells life insurance, right? We all have a brother-in-law that sells life insurance. It is not that type of policy. This is a specifically designed, specially engineered whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends, that is designed for high immediate cash value. And when I say immediate, meaning you're putting money into that policy and you're able to start using the cash value within 30 days. Most policies aren't designed that way. You can't start using the money for 2-3 years down the road because there's no cash value. Because the problem is, and the reason, even if an agent understands the infinite banking concept and how to use it, they're very hesitant on designing your policy this way, because in order for the policy to be done the way we design it, the agent has to take a 60 to a 90 a 60 to 90% cut in their commission. And they're just not willing to do it. They're not willing to set that policy up. Now, I'll tell you myself, I have 28 of these policies as we speak here today, and I started my first one, in February of 2008. And I buy at least one policy every 1 to 2 years. So I'm not out there telling anybody to do anything different than what I'm currently doing. And as a matter of fact, I'm not even telling you what to do. I'm just showing you the tools that the wealthy have used for well over about 250 years, right? The people like you mentioned, the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, the Morgans, the Stanleys, the Barclays, right? It's how Walt Disney built Disneyland, how Ray Kroc funded McDonald's, how Pampered Chef got started before Warren Buffett bought Pampered Chef. So don't take my word for it at all that this is the right thing. Go do your own due diligence. But if you find something, if you find another vehicle that outperforms this that has these features and benefits, then you better call me up and tell me what it is you found, and maybe I'll stop teaching this and start teaching the new. But I have never, ever, ever found anything in the financial game that works as good or better than this vehicle. Never.
All right, so you got to tell me, you've been teaching this for 12 years, and I don't want to shine too much light on Hannah because I don't know your son very well, but I do know that he took up your other passion and is now a pilot for NetJet. So that dude's off there rocking it too. How did you incorporate this into being a dad?
Yeah, so actually I have 3 children, one from my previous marriage. I got married when I was really young. I'm actually 56 now, so my oldest son is 35. He'll be 36 in December. So anyway, my wife now, we've just been married. We just celebrated this month our 28th wedding anniversary. So I have my son from my previous marriage. His name is Sean. And so him and his wife are property managers in Captiva Island, Florida. If you've heard of like Naples, Sanibel, Fort Myers, like Sanibel, Captiva, they manage high-end properties. They're property managers. I own a couple houses. Well, I sold one, so I still own one of those high-end properties over there that he manages on Captiva. And he's married and has 2 children, and his daughter just started driving this past month in April. She just turned 15, so she just started driving. Wow. Like, what, right? I mean, so that's pretty cool. And then, so that's my granddaughter, and then my grandson is 12. And then, so of course, we've talked about Hannah being age 24, and then my younger son, age 22. As a matter of fact, today is his 23rd birthday, May 14th. Today is his 23rd birthday. He's out as we speak, just today. So both him and my older son, they left on Saturday, coming back on Saturday. They're on a cruise ship that left out of Miami, the largest cruise ship in the world that was just recently built. It's called the Icon of the Seas, the Royal Caribbean. Okay. So they're out there right now. So we've been texting back and forth. So today is his 23rd birthday, and he is a pilot, and actually he flies for NetJets. So he's a pilot for NetJets, and so he's on a week, off a week. He flies this plane called the Cessna Citation Latitude. So he's got a pretty good gig, man. You know, he lives by himself, and he lives on the other coast of Florida in that Fort Myers and Cape Coral area. And he's on a week, off a week, single. And he just bought his own house back in October, I think it was, September or October at the end of 2023, his first house. He did that with his policy as well. And he was telling me last week, because anyway, so Hannah and I had a speaking engagement a couple days ago over the weekend in Miami. So it just so happened that, her and I could get together with them before they went out on their cruise on Saturday morning. So we all got together for dinner and everything. It was pretty cool. 9 of us
Right.
were out. So it just happened to work out. But yeah, he was telling me, he says, yeah, Dad, the next thing I'm going to do with my policy is I'm going to go buy a truck. He wants one of those lifted trucks, and he's
Okay.
already got it all picked out. And I said, Zach, are you sure that's what you want? You can't even get it in the garage, right? It's so big and lifted. You can't even, you're going to have to park it out on the driveway. And in Florida, that's not always a good thing because some of the weather that we get. But anyway, right. So like it just goes to show that the thing we do is like all the stuff that we do in our life, whether we're investing, whether we're loaning money, whether we're buying our products and our services, our cars, our houses, our boats, our wave runners, our airplanes, we're using this concept and this system to be able to build and keep and create wealth through the own debts and expenses that we already have and keep that money in the family. And the thing that I think how it's really helped with our relationship, the father-children relationship, is we're really, really getting around the campfire now and talking about money. And most people don't do that in their families, right? They just don't talk about money with their kids, their parents, grandparents, because it's just an uncomfortable topic. No matter how good somebody is doing financially or how poorly somebody is doing financially, it is a topic that we're not talking about. So I encourage at almost every event that I speak at and I'm saying, hey, we got to start getting around the kitchen table and talking to our family about our wealth and our money and what we're doing with it and how it's going to build and grow, right? And because again, right, so this is a concept, it is a tool that allows you to keep that money in the family. There's no money being leaked out to other people. And it's not a system or a concept, Justin, that is on trial and being tested, right? It's not, okay, so anyway, the guy that was my mentor, he wrote this book, Becoming Your Own Banker. This guy named R. Nelson Nash. R. Nelson Nash was my mentor. He passed away just a little over 5 years ago in March of 2019. He passed away at age 87 years old. I tell everybody, I say, go buy this book, Becoming Your Own Banker. Go get it wherever you want to get it. It's not necessary to get it from us at the Money Multiplier. I mean, yes, we have books. We can sell you a book, but no, it's not about that. You go find the book, Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. And that book changed my financial life. It just literally changed my financial life. And I've seen it change the financial life of many, many people. As I sit here and talk to you today, so like I have over 13,000 clients in every state of the country that are actively practicing this concept under our guidance and under our mentorship and leadership, right? I'm not saying you have to do this with us at the Money Multiplier, but go do your own due diligence and the research. And the thing I love most about what we do, Justin, the thing I love most about my job is nobody is ever mad at us. People don't get mad at you when you're helping them build, keep, and create wealth. And if I do have people that are mad, they're keeping it a secret. They haven't told us about it, right? So it's just such a joy to be able to bring this knowledge that we're not getting out there from other people because our parents, our grandparents, our friends, our colleagues, and our coworkers are not talking about this concept. It's not that they're keeping it from you. They just don't know. They just haven't been taught and they don't know. So it really brings the family dynamics together, and it gets your family closer when you can start talking about, the power of building, keeping, and creating financial wealth within your own family, and there's no money being leaked out to other people, and you are 100% in control at all times.
When you think about like when you think about Freakonomics and what motivates people, this isn't something that would be shared with most people, because like you said, insurance agents aren't going to share it because you have to take a 60 to 90% cut on their commission. So if you're driven by commission, then that's not going to be beneficial to share this information. Banks are definitely not going to share this information. So this isn't widely spread so that it's something that people really get to know about, unless, of course, they run into you in San Diego or one of the events, or someone else really kind of spreading this word.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's why we're on a mission. My daughter as well, and through the content that we offer, because again, all right, so like nobody on our team ever charges for anything that we do. We don't ever charge for the content that we provide. And even our clients, Justin, they never pay us a dime for any of our services. See, I get paid, Hannah gets paid. So like any money mentor on our team, we get paid one way only. We get paid exactly like your car insurance guy or gal gets paid. So if you go to John Smith, the Allstate man, to buy car insurance, John Smith is not the one you write the check to. You write the check to Allstate, and Allstate pays John Smith a commission. So we, myself, Hannah, are licensed in every state of the country. So when somebody does this concept, they buy this life insurance policy, right? They're going to buy the policy. They have to buy the policy from someone. And hopefully, if they do it, they buy it from us at the Money Multiplier. Why should they buy it from us at the Money Multiplier? Because this is all we do. We're 100% infinite banking concept, but they never pay us a dime at all ever, and we provide them with their tools, their cash flow analysis, money multiplier map, all the content that we're constantly putting out there, and we get paid a commission on the policy somebody starts. And I don't determine how much commission I get paid, and you, Justin, the client, do not determine how much commission I get paid. It's up to the insurance company of how we get paid. And like I said earlier, the way we design the policy is to give that client the best cash value possible to fit their needs and goals. And the policy is designed and structured in a way that it never becomes this thing we call a MEC, M-E-C, which stands for Modified Endowment Contract. I don't expect the listeners to know what that means, but really what that means, and also Nelson Nash in this book, Becoming Your Own Banker, talks about it on page 38 of the book. It says when you design the policy, so the thing is, if you design the policy to where it becomes a MEC, it's now no longer treated as an insurance contract. It's treated as an investment and subject to taxation. Now, the reason this whole MEC thing, Justin, came into effect, it was back, I believe, in June of 1988. Our good old government, because people were doing very well by putting money in their cash value life insurance policies, and they wanted to continue to dump more and more and more money into them. And of course, anything that's working great for the public, the government wants to come in and say, hey, let me get a piece of it, or stop the process. So they came in and they brought this thing in called the MEC. So now what it does is it limits you to the amount that you can put into a policy. When you start a contract, when you start your first policy contract and you say, this is what I want to do or how much money I want to put into it, well, down the road, when you get more money and you want to put more money into it, you can't do that. So all of our policies that we design, we snuggle them right up to the MEC line without going over it. But how do we combat that? The problem of the MEC? All we do, Justin, is go out and start additional policies. So even
That's
though
why you've got 50 policies.
Yeah, that's why you continue to get more policies, because as you continue to increase your money, increase your wealth, you want to have somewhere to put it. And there is no better vehicle that I've ever seen where to put it. So people will start additional policies. So that's how we combat that mech challenge, is just by starting additional policies.
I'll tell you, I do have a heavy bit of skepticism when I try to hop into something new. And one of the questions that I asked was, okay, like, this is your business. How do you make money? Understanding everything that you do for your clients. And that was a really surprising point that was brought back to me was that you just make money on the insurance commission. Everything else that you're doing is just to benefit everyone you're working with. And when you look at it long term, which makes it a great business, like you said, if we strike up a great relationship and everything builds and grows, well, I'm going to have to open up more policies so that hopefully one day I'm sitting on 50 policies too.
Well, I can tell you, you will be, because I will tell you, out of those 13,000 clients, 91% of those clients that have been with us like a year or longer have more than one policy. And 70% of those come back and start additional policies before the first year. So, and the reason I say that and I keep those stats is because if this concept was not working, there's no way 9 out of 10 are coming back to do more, right? And the reason most of them come back before the first year is because the thing you got to remember, Justin, it is not a right for you or anybody to own one of these policies. It is a privilege. Not everybody can own a policy for different reasons. And most of the time, that reason is for health reasons, right? Now, even though if a person can't own a policy on themselves, they can own a policy on another individual. And my oldest son is the prime example of this. He is not insurable, has never been insurable in his whole life, because he was born with 2 bad kidneys and he had a kidney transplant about 5 or 6 years ago, right? Maybe 6, 7 years ago now. So he is never going to be insurable. But he still practices this concept because he owns policies on his wife, he owns policies on his children, and he owns policies on other people that he has a vested interest in, such as people that are in his business, employees of his business, right? So, yes, you do have to qualify in order to have a policy on your own body. But a lot of times people say, well, Brent, this isn't going to work for me because I'm too old or my health is bad. Well, first of all, no, so don't let age don't let age be a factor of why you think you can't do this. I think our oldest client ever that we've gotten approved for a policy is 77 years old. Okay. So, right. If you're older than 77, you're probably not going to get a policy on yourself, but you can still own a policy on a child, a grandchild, or somebody that you have a vested interest in, and you totally control that policy. And sometimes people think, well, okay, as far as age is a limiting factor, and they also think of the death benefit amount or the cost of the policy. So, so the thing is never ever think of the cost of the policy, because what you're thinking of when you think of the cost of the policy, you're thinking in just terms of death benefit. So every client that we talk to, we ask them, what is the amount of money that you want to put into the policy? And we never tell you how much to put in. We ask you, what is the amount of money you want to put in? And that amount of money that you put into the policy will buy you X amount of death benefit based on your age and your health. So if you're way older doing this, your as far as the death benefit number will be lower than somebody that's younger than you. Assuming that, for example, let's say you have 3 people age 20, 40, and 60, and you're all going to put in $1,000 a month into a policy and you're in equal health. Well, the oldest person would have the less death benefit, the youngest person would have the most. But remember, that's not why we do this. We don't do this for death benefit. The death benefit is the icing on the cake, the cherry on the icing, the bingo, the bonanza, right? We're doing this for cash value because all three of those people, Justin, that are putting in the same amount of money are going to have almost identical the same amount of cash to use. It's just the death benefit is going to be different. That's it. So that's where we try to tell people like, hey, don't look at cost because you're putting in dollars into the policy, and the reason you're working with us at the Money Multiplier is because you want the cash. The cash is what you want in the policy, and the death benefit is just the sidebar. It's the extra on top of it.
All right, so before we close this out, my daughter's 22 years younger than yours, or 21 years younger. If you were going to give some dad advice to dads out there and myself, because I put this together really selfishly because I want my kids to be that smart when they're older. What kind of advice would you give raising kids with this kind of mindset?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll just give you a real life thing that happened to me. You know, when my kids were younger, Hannah and Zach, right? So like if you think about this, I've been teaching this since 2012, but I've been doing it since 2008. So let's just go back to 2012 when I was teaching this. So my daughter Hannah was born in 1999. So that means she really first got exposed to me teaching this at age 13 years old, right? And my son Zach was born in 01, so he got exposed like when he was 11. So 13 and 11, was when I first exposed him. Well, the last thing they wanted to hear at age 13 and 11 was me talking about money and financing. They didn't think that was cool at all. And it was like herding cats to try to get them around the table to talk about money and finance. So it was really, and I remember having some arguments, me being disappointed because I thought they needed to know this stuff and I wanted them to be as excited about it as I was, and they just simply weren't. So what I finally discovered was if I told a 13 and 11-year-old that, hey, kids, let's go get in the car. Dad's going to go take you out to dinner and we're going to go buy ice cream or go do something fun. The kids will not get out of a moving car. So they have to listen to me as I'm speaking as we're driving in the moving car, right? And I always wondered, though, did they really hear my message? Even though they were in that car, did they really hear my message? And I can assure you, Justin, that they did. They may not have picked up everything that I was talking to them about, but they did, because as the years progressed in life, they have said things to me. They have made statements. They have done action items to where I know it came directly from those teachings back when they were age 13 and 11 or 14 and 12 or like whenever it was. So what I would say, and we already kind of talked about this a little bit, about we have to start getting our kids around the campfire, and they got to listen to these wealth building strategies. And and then, all right, like with today, with Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and YouTube and cell phones and all the social media stuff that's out there, I would plug them in to content talking about money. For example, even at age 3, 4, 5, and 6, they're not too young to listen to get that verbiage from a podcast or from maybe one of a wealth, like a wealth webinar, that we do. Like Chris Noggle on our team does a Wealth Wednesday webinar every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. I mean, it's not too soon to get them around that. And you as the parents, I just believe that we as parents have obligations to get something in place to where our kids are learning something about it. I mean, right? So maybe it's a game that you're playing with the kids, and it can be an age-related game. And actually, a great game to play is I can't remember the name of it. I think it's called Cash Flow. It's Robert Kiyosaki. It's almost Cash like Flow, a Monopoly. Quadrant, yeah, with the purple box and stuff. So it's never too early to get them around that, and for you to have those discussions with your spouse or even other family members about money and engage them into it. And have the child say, hey, look, I'm going to have you do the dishes. You're going to get paid X amount to do this. I'm going to have you do the garbage. Or even if it's a smaller child, just having them pick up the toys, the job they're supposed to do anyway, and doing some kind of a money or monetary exchange so they can see the value of money and what we're using like dollars for. And even though it's going to drive you crazy because you're going to think they don't get it, I promise you they do. They're absorbing some of this in. It's just like learning a language, How easy is it to learn a language when you're young? When you get older, it gets more difficult. It's like right? So like it's like snow skiing or snowboarding or water skiing. My son, for example, being a pilot, he started learning how to be a pilot when he was like 16, 17 years old, and he just picks up the stuff just like that. And here I am older trying to advance my aviation knowledge by getting additional ratings, and I don't have it like he does. So the younger body, the younger mind, we retain more stuff, and I think that there's not as much baggage that's out there, or as much noise, like I like to call it, that has been taught to us. And the younger you teach this, and I would say this to every parent or grandparent: there's no better gift a grandparent can buy a grandchild than a whole life policy in a mutual company that pays dividends. So, and yes, it's good to buy the policy for them, right? That's one thing, but it's even more important that the parent and the grandparent, what they do is they teach why we're actually doing this. And it doesn't have to be you teaching it. It could be us teaching it through all of the seminars and presentations and the YouTubes and everything that
maybe that's next. Money Multiplier Kid Show on YouTube. Maybe that's the next step from this one.
I do know that Hannah has that on her radar. I don't know where she's at with it all, but she has told me over the last probably, I'm going to say 12 to 24 months. She says, Dad, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write a book that has to do with the money multiplier for kids. So, I think we should hold her accountable to that and say, Hannah, when is that coming? When is that coming? Because I wrote a book called Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, and I fought it. I kicked and screamed, and I'm like, there's no way I'm sitting down and writing a book. But you know what, Justin? It was the easiest thing to do, because all I had to do was I had to get with the book, the book writer or the editor, I guess, or whoever, the title of whoever does that. And I actually had conversations over the phone just with this person. And we had probably, I'm just going to say 3 or 4 1 to 2 hour conversations. And the thing that she did is she recorded the conversations, and then she took all of that and she put it into the book form. I proofread it, we edited it, and here's the book. I mean, it was the easiest thing I ever did. I'm like, let's do some more.
Ghostwriter,
You know?
Now, there's some amazing ghostwriters out there for sure. There's some amazing ghostwriters out there. Well, Brent, I gotta thank you. Like I said, I was super excited to have you on here because, like I said, you've done such an incredible job at not just teaching everybody, but teaching your kids. And that was the whole reason I started this podcast, was to show dads all the different ways to be dads and teach your kids how to invest in the future. So thank you.
No. Yeah, man. So thank you. And if it's okay with you, I'll offer this ebook that I wrote with Chris Naugle, Mapping Out the Millionaire Mystery, to all of the listeners. All they have to do, you can go out to our website, www.themoneymultiplier.com. So it's the moneymultiplier.com. Or if you send me an email, Brent, B-R-E-N-T, Brent at themoneymultiplier.com, I'll also send you the ebook. So all your listeners can have that book.
Thank you. That's awesome.